Okay, brief introduction. This is Jono, aka Goomba Stompin' with Team Goliath Online, and today we're doing a mini VOD review / coach feedback recording for our bot lane. That's Cleaner+Keiro. These games were from a practice scrim on August 18th, 2020. This video is intended to be quick and dirty with no editing, and I'd like to note that this video scope only has time to put them under the constructive criticism microscope. So sorry guys, we will be lacking in the positive reinforcement department for this video. Our review will feature excerpts from the laning phase with a focus on assigning triggers to your upcoming actions and setting expectations with your duo. I'm trying to introduce voice comms by playing a Twitch VOD over the replay file. So bear with me as I experiment a little here. Since the VOD is from the jungler's perspective, the surprise party fiddlesticks drain sounds are quite obnoxious. So I apologize for that. Let's go ahead and look at our first example here. What we're going to look at is some pros and cons. One big pro here was that as you guys are coming to lane, Keiro the support immediately asked, "Are we pushing?" So this is really good in the setting expectations department. What we're going to look at more specifically is how this pushing was achieved, or how both parties are supporting the push, as well as looking at how do we play the level 2? What's our positioning like? Do we announce our hook? Level 2 is a very dynamic moment, and both teams should really recognize it and respect it. So we're going to look at what our comms were like as we hit level 2, how were expectations set for the hook, and that sort of thing. The matchup is Thresh Caitlyn versus enemy Ashe Tahm Kench, and we started hook level 1, so we'll look at how early we managed to put that into play. I'm going to go ahead and start the clip. Voice comms start at 145, so let me go ahead, hit play, double click Thresh.
Kendrick has a solo start.
There they are. Are we pushing?
Yeah, I think we should push level 2 and do base. I'm sure. Actually, that really damage for me. I just have a bench.
Yeah, we can grab when he goes up to try and hit.
Alright, I got top pushing so far.
Okay, so that was our clip for the comms. You can replay it through this video a few times if you need to catch anything you missed or go back and look at the details. So I'd like to start at the beginning for the review. Let's take a look here. Alright, so we're coming to lane. And then it was asked, are we going to push? Cleaner answered yes. It was kind of hard to hear him over the wolves and the fiddlesticks draining, and I think my volume balancing for the Twitch VOD probably isn't great either, so again, I apologize for that. So some of the things that I think about when it comes to pushing early are that we really want to get Thresh's auto attack into play as much as possible. And if we can, we would like to save the relic shield charges for the second wave, where usually both sides will contest the second wave much stronger or much harder as they know that level 2 is coming. And having the relic shields available for the second wave really adds a nice kick to getting that level up. In the meantime, however, Thresh can definitely use his auto attacks on these casters. If he beats Caitlyn to lane, maybe you can hit this one because, again, it's still pretty darn healthy, getting that auto attack into play. Another thing we're going to look at is how is Thresh positioning and what is he doing in the laning phase. So typically, engaged support will try to take bush control early. Even if you weren't in engaged support, usually you're trying to push the enemy out of these bushes and take control of them. The idea is to bait the enemy into putting down wards. It's to get the enemy Ashe to use her hawk shot on you instead of potentially Caitlyn. We're trying to preserve Kate's HP as much as possible. It should be noted that Kate does have Fleet, So she can take a little bit of damage and then start vamping for fleet. As a matter of fact, it's quite preferred. So from Kate's perspective, we're going to look at how early does she make a small trade with Ashe. That way, as she uses her Doran Blade vamp, as she gets her HP 5 into play, as she receives the healing from the fleet, all of these resources, if they're going on when you're at 100% HP, it's almost like you're taking damage in lane, right? Because all of those numbers, the HP 5, the vamp, and the fleet, are effective HP. And when you can't heal them unless you had overheal, I'm not sure if the if I can get your rune to come up here. Is this it? Oop. See a little arrow there. Oh, there it is. Okay, so it is going to your overheal, which is good. So 69. So anything more than that, though, and we'd want to make these little tiny trades just to ensure that that effective HP isn't going to waste. I also think overheal is a percentage. So it is, shield is built up from 20% excess healing, right? So when you're using overheal for this example, you're only getting 20% of the value from your, and it is specific to healing. I don't think it counts your HP 5. So if possible, Caitlyn should try to trade a small trade early with Ashe, just to have a little bit of damage on her to get full value from all of these different sources that we're talking about. Thresh should be taking vision control and really trying to help Kate with the push where needed. So let's go ahead and take a look how that plays out. Thresh opens up with some relics. There's a tilt. Caitlyn's positioning is really reserved here. I would have liked to see a step up and hit on the Ashe, especially now that Ashe has been tagged. So she is now regenning with all those sources, and we're not. We're getting a little bit of overshield, but a small trade. Stand behind the minion, do one auto attack on Ashe is really good here. So here we're just last hitting and pushing. Notice that Thresh, after using his relic shield, never attacked again on the wave, despite asking if you guys were pushing. So that might be something to target as how are you influencing the lane. Here we get a poke on Tahm Kench, which I think is good. You take a little minion aggro, but again, this is starting to move in that direction of just taking a little bit of damage to get those effective HP resources in play. Here we've got a headshot. It goes straight into the minion. I'd be careful now that you guys have priority in the lane. You guys are up in minion count, and you have the enemy looking to harass you maybe when you go for a last hit, or alternatively, you have to wait for this particular minion to go low before you harass them. So, or before they need to step up for a last hit. So I would be careful, like, putting yourself in a position where you have to last hit. It just restricts your options. Let your minions take the damage, and then move in and out. Try to open up Ashe with that headshot auto. Stuff like that is very helpful over the course of the lane. But I think we get all our last hits, which is good. Here I'd still like to see a small trade, maybe poke on the Ashe, maybe proc that Guardian. Here, something interesting happens that's worth pointing out. We end up accidentally misclicking the minion, but I don't want to focus too much on that. Tahm Kench was able to get your bone plating get Thresh's bone plating for free, and it really makes you wonder why we weren't controlling these bushes, making it harder for them to land skill shots, again provoking these wards, and again maybe opening up a chance to hook Ashe here instead of us taking this free poke while we're out in the open. If you were taking the poke out in the open, but you were really pushing these melees in and the wave was hotly contested, I think that would make a little bit more sense and I'd be okay with this. But in this case, we didn't really achieve any of our objectives for the support role influencing the lane in the early stage. Regarding Caitlyn auto-attacking this minion, I would like to spend just a little bit of time talking about buffering auto-attacks. So until you reach pro status and you're able to control your auto attack range at like just 5 out, meaning like Caitlyn's at 650 range, Ashe is at 600, those players can like control their auto attack spacing within like 5 range. So like 655 with Caitlyn to Ashe, they'll start buffering, and the split second that they notice that the auto attack isn't going to happen, maybe because the other character backed off, they can recorrect, and they repeat that process by buffering in these auto attacks at 655 over and over and over again. That way, anytime the characters come within range of each other, they're guaranteed that immediate auto attack on frame 1. Right, frame 1 of the animation. Anyway, we're not quite there yet, so I recommend a buffer range of about 50. So again, Caitlyn with 650 range, we're going to start buffering auto attacks on Ashe when we can visually see her within 700 range of us. What that does is anytime that Ashe maybe oversteps a little bit, or the distance gets closed between you and Ashe within that 50, Caitlyn will immediately auto attack Ashe as soon as she enters that 650 range without having to have these like outstanding mechanics or anything like that, mouse accuracy and reflexes. So let's go ahead and just back this up a little bit. Oop, I wonder where the backup was. Okay, there was a volley down, even more reason to attack. This was the pushing, and it happened about here. That's where the tongue lash happened. Okay, so here it's Kate Ashe, and this is where, okay, this is definitely more than 600 or 700, so we'll say like right here, this is probably about 700 range, maybe a little bit less, but I would start buffering immediately on the Ashe with auto attack, the auto attack command, because what you see here is Ashe is walking forward, you're walking forward, and if you hadn't already buffered that auto attack, there's a good chance that this kind of caught you by surprise, the fact that she was walking forward when you thought she'd back off. And here, I mean, you can tell we're well within Caitlyn's 650 auto attack range, and we haven't yet started the animation. So again, ignoring the attack on the minion, the buffer really would have helped here. I might sound a little long-winded with this explanation, but this is a core AD carry mechanic that you need to be employing 24/7, skirmishes, bot lane situations, etc. You know, the way I always put it is if 2 AD carries or if 2 champions walk into trading range of each other, one of them probably made a mistake, right? One of them probably should want to trade, the other one probably shouldn't want to trade. So when both AD carries walked into each other's ranges, that means somebody messed up, right? Because one of them was supposed to want to position back, stay safe, not trade and farm, and then the other one wanted to be aggressive. In this case, both kind of stepped up aggressively. So that's why I'm giving a real long-winded explanation here. Pay attention to this buffering concept and start employing it in your games. Not to say that you might not already do this, but you know, just reinforcement. Okay, so here Ashe autos Thresh. We got our auto into play. We pathed backwards automatically. I do think that volley is probably still down, so looking for that auto is still good here. Again, we see Thresh's positioning, not to beat a dead horse, but you have hook. You need to try to find a way to put it into play. All right, Kate again goes into that range with Ashe while Ashe was going for the last hit. Would have been really good to get that auto attack animation off. All right, a little bit of hovering here. Decides to tilt. It is aimed at Ashe, which is good. I guess it wasn't enough to break the Guardian. Here, Thresh starts with 1 auto attack, 2 auto attacks, so he's come alive in the pushing department, which is really good. The thing is that if you were to re-watch the comms at this point, 2 minutes and 15 or 2 minutes and 17, there's no talk. There's not even a whisper about what you guys are going to do at level 2 or how you're hitting level 2, right? This is really where you need to be pushing into their team, their bot lane duo, auto attacking the Tom, looking to flay maybe Ashe or flay Tom in anticipation of this level up, right? Here comes the level up. There's an auto from Thresh. Thresh is moving backwards here. You're moving backwards as you're hitting level 2. Now Kate is pivoting backwards. This is like autopilot at its finest, right? Level 2 to level 1, they have an entire melee to go. You guys should be on their shit, you should be pushing them back is basically what I'm trying to say. Or at the very least, having Thresh in this bush ready to engage. This is what I mean by things that have to change or critical improvements that have to happen for bot lane. And while it might be easy to say like, oh, well, in this case, it was really on Thresh to be more forward. Well, neither of you guys brought it up in the comms. So this is a very good situation where you may hear that I always say one of you guys need to take the lead, or one of you guys need to be more assertive. It could be either of you that say go on Ashe. Similarly, if I was the Caitlyn here, I would be trying to orb walk down on top of Ashe with the intention of netting, autoing, giving Thresh some space, right? Because if Ashe stops to kite you or stops to trade, Thresh is right around the corner, gaining space, getting ready for the hook ignite, or flay, auto attack, ignite, look for the hook, things like that. Did I make my point? This is a pretty big one, so I really want to make sure that you guys are on it like a bonnet. Here we start stepping up. Here, and like many situations, we really want to start setting some conditions for the Thresh hook. So when I look at this here, what naturally comes out of my mouth, or what naturally comes to mind, is when Ashe goes for this melee, I'm going to try to hook Tom. Or when Ashe goes for this melee, I'm going to try to hook Ashe. We're hovering a bit. You bait the Tom tongue lick, which is one of our objectives as support, so that's really good. Here comes the last hit. We're backing up. So we lost a fair bit of value here, right? We didn't put the hook into play. We didn't use level 2. Both of you guys got hit by the volley and did not return fire. I would review this first example a few times. There's a lot of learning opportunities here, whether it be the setting the expectations, whether it be the detail on the buffering the auto attack, or the support's early objectives in the laning phase. There's just a lot of good here that you guys can take from this example, so please use it. We'll go ahead and go on to our next example. Again, just trying to keep in mind setting the expectations for the hook. So the next example actually comes right away after this, and some of the things that we'll hear Keiro call out, "I've got cannon, should we crash?" And Keiro also stating she warded Tribush. The reason I'm bringing these two items up is because I think they're very great comms-wise, right? If we're crashing the wave, then using that relic shield on the cannon makes a lot of sense. Also getting ready to start DPSing the next wave that's coming, the wave after the one that you're crashing, assuming you want to keep that pressure. So maybe to clarify or to slow things down, because I'm kind of rambling, I know, is after you've crashed the wave, you guys get a choice of whether or not you want to let the wave come to you, playing around your jungler or playing around ganks, or if you want to keep that pressure up by shoving the next wave in and maybe cheating a recall. And so on that note, think about what you're going to do for the next wave after you've decided to crash the current wave. The other thing was noting that she went and warded Tribush. I'm going to give some props to Keiro here. That's something our team as a whole doesn't do a fantastic job of tracking when the enemy goes to ward, where they're warding. So I just wanted to give some props where credit was due. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I need a little bit more of a buffer here. We'll speed this up to 25. Okay, and again, one of the things that we're looking for is setting expectations for the hook. So when you listen to the comms, listen to, again, how expectations for the hook are being set. All right, here we go. I'm gonna start the red side. Keep an eye on them if they start to
Okay, lane's pushing back out to me top. I'm gonna try to let it.
I got cannon. Do we want to try and crush this one?
Yeah.
Kindred's heading towards you. Yeah.
I see.
We have them under turret.
Okay, good job. I'm gonna give Kindred her red. It probably reset, and then I'm gonna get the Scuttle. I'm gonna try to be first on Scuttle. I'm gonna push it up to my pink board. Just be ready to rotate back if you can.
Yep, I'll stay on that side of the lane. Ashe went, and she warded try.
There's Kindred. Watch out right here. Okay, so we heard all the points I mentioned with the Ashe warding try. We're talking about crashing the wave. I'm going to go ahead and review this from the start and just kind of point out a couple things that I noticed that would be helpful. Okay, I think the example started at 2:30. Okay, so basically back to where we started. All right, here we kind of started talking about maybe crashing. Again, this is a great example of that buffering we're talking about, so we'll start here. Okay, tongue lash down. Okay, so Kate steps up, and right here, it's time to pretty much start buffering. Buffering on Ashe. Buffer, 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 buffer. You can tell Caitlyn isn't buffering because she's walking straight down, which means that Caitlyn's following a movement command and not an attack command. Otherwise, she'd walk straight to Ashe and start her auto attack animation. Especially about right now, where you are clearly in Ashe's, within Caitlyn's auto attack range, and you know, Ashe is stuck in animation. So even if you were just right on the edge, Kate would step up and auto. So again, buffering these auto attack commands on the enemy champion are critical. Get that into play ASAP when you play your next game as AD carry. Buffer, buffer, buffer. Here, buffer, buffer. You're clearly right-clicking. I wonder if you're using target champions only and just not quite mousing on top of Ashe. You know, auto attack move command with it set to be closer to cursor. There's a setting for that in game. You can look it up. Rather than it being closest to your champion, it's closest to cursor. It's like auto attack move on cursor, I think is what it's called. Anyway, buffer, buffer, buffer these auto attack commands. Here, I think you probably had just started. Maybe she was just on the outer edge. And so your instinct was, okay, she's out, so I need to start backing up. But again, here we could probably buffer some autos on Tom or maybe Ashe, which we do. We get one on Tom, so that's good. At least we got something out of it. Here, Keiro just, I mean, he hooks out of nowhere. It's a good hook. It also got Guardian, but Caitlyn wasn't ready for that. There was no comms, no discussion about I'm looking for a hook on Tam, right? There wasn't any talk about you know, were you going to flay afterwards? Nothing. You just threw it out. I would suggest that setting expectations is the #1 way for you guys to grow as a bot lane. And so just really, really try to focus on it. Also, if you see these split-second opportunities that you didn't have a chance to build up towards, don't be shy about saying, just shouting out the enemy champion's name, like Tam, like go for Tam, right? I think that might help quite a bit. Also just saying, I'm hooking, or hook, you know, or something, just anything to get the attention of the ADC. That way we don't miss these opportunities. I would even suggest that after the hook landed and Ashe stepped up like that, both of you guys could have attacked and targeted Ashe. Maybe a flay, an auto attack, followed up with a headshot, with fleet, you know. Those are all definitely within the cards. After that, I don't think anything too fancy happens. Here, where we didn't really communicate if we were going for plate or if we're going for the second wave, or the upcoming wave. So we talked a little bit about, Keiro called out that he's crashing the wave. But then here, we wonder, are we going for plate, are we going for poke, or are we going for the wave? We can kind of see where that might start to become an issue, because now you guys are not on the same page. Here, Kate goes for poke, she gets the bone plate, but then Keiro isn't really sure what he's doing, because, again, we're not sure if we're going for plate or disengage. We can't play for Lantern. Lantern's not up yet. It's not level 3. We're not going for a hook on Tam. We're backing up. If if Tam and Ashe realized how disjointed you guys were here, they could have really attacked Kate hard and gotten some big chunk. So again, you guys should be coordinating and talking about how you want to play the situation. All right, blah, blah, blah. Here we are. We're getting towards... Let's see. Hero is... Oh, he's playing to this upper side because I was doing this Scuttle Crab and said I'd push it towards you guys. He was calling out the ward that Ashe put in the tri-bush. Here, you could probably try to use some kind of hook, you know, to try to target Ashe. We come back to lane. Okay. Yeah, pretty straightforward. Now we're in this neutral. Here's another hook, but that wasn't really, there wasn't any, what's it called? Comms for it. It is good that you hooked Tam because they weren't on a parallel line with each other, Ashe and Tam. So it's a good opportunity for you guys to chunk Tam really hard without Ashe being able to return fire. It's a little sloppy with the movement. I need to see that buffered auto attack on Ashe for sure. We didn't quite get the trap. I know that it was kind of, it's joked about from time to time that we should be trying to flay Tom onto the trap, but I think it's also important to recognize, okay, the tug, it tugs them twice, so you can try to put the trap over that, or closer to you, and then Thresh can flay in the direction that the trap is, a little easier. All kind of coordination talk. Let's go ahead and fast forward a little bit. This one isn't a comms one, but I'd like to discuss this fight that breaks out at 355. So there's a good auto on Ashe. Okay. What I really want to focus on in this fight at 355 is the matchup, right? The matchup has 2 tanky engage supports and 2 ranged poking supports. So let's go ahead and just kind of see how this plays out. We'll take it nice and slow. Here comes Thresh stepping up, again with no communication to Kate that he's going to go for this hook. But the hook is pretty good. It lands on Ashe. So despite not setting triggers, we're seeing these hooks land, which I think are really good. The trap would have been really good this time. It looks like an improvement over the last one. However, Tom eats the Ashe as Thresh Spider-Man'd in. This is matchup knowledge. I'm not going to make a big deal about this, but you need to learn the matchup for Thresh versus Tom and understand what they have access to in terms of resources. You save the flay for when Ashe gets spat back out. There's a real good chance you get her summoner. All right, so that was all the details in this skirmish that I wanted to address with Keiro. Now we're going to go turn our attention towards Caitlyn and what she needed to do in this fight. So this all-in was triggered, and we have committed to it with autos and that sort of thing. Now the all-in has turned, and at the very least, things have not stabilized yet, right? And what I mean by that is that because they use their cooldowns and their abilities better than you guys, they now have a very clear focus on Thresh, where Ashe and Tom are able to focus Thresh, and Caitlyn is the one that's out of attacking range. So the enemy team definitely has the advantage in this position. When you're in this type of situation, and it's really no different than if Leona or Nautilus were to engage on your support, you don't waste a single ounce of DPS or time or damage on the full tank support, especially in this case Tahm Kench, right? Every ounce of DPS is spent on the Ashe or on the AD carry to discourage them from continuing auto-attacking Thresh. After the AD carry and the enemy support have stopped attacking Thresh and changed their target, that's called juggling aggro, then you can attack front to back, shoot whoever's most convenient, that sort of thing. But until this fight has stabilized, until the quote-unquote all-in is no longer an all-in, we don't change targets, and we don't spend a single ounce of DPS on the Tom. All right, let's take a look at this fight kind of in slow motion. We auto Tom. There's a little bit of orb blocking here. Autos Tom. Here's a trap, which I think in tandem with the other trap is okay. Another auto on Tom, but you notice Ashe is just wailing away on Thresh here. Another auto on Tom. Ashe flashing in. We canceled an auto. We hit a minion. Now we're on targeting on Ashe. But at this point, even though she's flashed, she uses her heal and she's able to just get out of there. So I would say from like communications perspective and assigning your cooldowns to the enemy's cooldowns, I feel like Thresh really dropped the ball at the beginning. Then as the fight developed in terms of positioning and DPSing, that sort of thing, you dropped the ball. So I know it's hard to, it's hard for me to just blatantly say like, oh, you know, like you guys are making mistakes here, but please know that it's coming from, you know, what I think will be the best case study, right? The best thing that you guys can review to improve your fights, your skirmishes. And I don't mean this one specifically. I know you guys have gotten plenty of double kills in lane. What we're really looking for are these for future references, ideas, themes, you know, the buffering of auto attacks, the target selection. These things are really important. So anyway, that was our skirmish at 3:55. I think at this point we stabilized a little bit. There was another skirmish at 5 minutes, which isn't too far away. It was a pretty unlucky one, so we're not going to worry too much about that, but we're again going to look at setting triggers for our hook or flay, and then also the buffering of auto attacks and these sorts of things, juggling aggro. So let's go ahead and speed it up a little bit. Oh, Tam flashed on you, you flashed away. Speeding it up. Try to get into 5 minutes. A little bit of flirting with danger here. Big headshot on Tam, which is good. And backing out to make sure you don't get in Ashe's range. We can see that they're a little disjointed because Ashe really just wants to reset and Tam's over here flirting with danger with you. You stabilize. Okay, here comes Thresh. So the first thing is setting expectations. I think Cleaner, I'm not going to play the comms, but I'm pretty sure you said like, let's try to kill them or go, or play forward or whatever. You called for the fight, which I think was correct. Here we get an auto on Ashe. Another auto on Ashe, it's looking good. An auto on Ashe, it's looking really good. Here, Keiro, you're gonna go for a hook, and it's unfortunate, but this minion manages to block you just right. It's within the hook's hitbox. I don't care about this one slip and the hook hitting the minion. I'm talking long term. I'm talking improvements for the long term. When you're this close to Ashe, even if the minion wasn't in the way, you don't want to deal with that hook. You don't want to flip that coin. Just walk at her, auto her with your empowered auto attack, flay her ass, like develop the situation. We know her flash is down. Develop the situation and an easier hook will present itself, or she'll die. One of the two, right? So that is your big takeaway from this skirmish here at 5 minutes. Is to consistently get in range if they let you for your close range abilities. If it was Leo, it would be your Q. If it's Nautilus, it's your auto attack. If it's Thresh, it's your flay and your auto, right? Okay. Caitlyn, in this situation, needs to employ the concept of juggling aggro. Right here, it's very clear that Ashe is focusing you. Now, she cannot maintain that because you can stay out of range using like your fleet and Caitlyn's massive range and wait until she either changes targets to Thresh or leaves. This is very akin to some of our jungle ganks where if the jungle gank goes sour and it's my gank for your lane and the enemy AD carry like a Draven or a Lucian goes big and like turns it and kills you, right? It's because you're not juggling aggro properly. So let's look at an opportunity to learn to juggle aggro a little better. Here, unfortunately, an auto on minion. I'm 90% sure that the reason that auto attack hit the minion is because we actually didn't have vision of Ashe yet. She stepped into the bush, was good on her. Yeah, so that auto hit the minion because you guys lost vision. Now, I know you guys have a warding totem. I don't know how I need to it shows gray, not because you don't have it. It's because you're, I believe it's, maybe it is. Let's actually do our due diligence here. Maybe you don't have that award. Oh yeah, maybe you don't. Maybe that, yeah. So Thresh has the ward. Okay, so it's a little confusing between vision score, which is currently 0. I don't know how that's possible, and the 1, which is your ward going down. So anyway, something to think about. Here we go. Auto. What was that? Sorry, I keep rewinding it. I'll try to let it play a little more smoothly this time. Okay, here we go. So we get auto. Yeah, and here she goes out of vision, so we ended up auto-attacking the creep, not that big of a deal. Thresh really needs to ward, definitely. Ward that bush, Thresh. Net was great. We get vision of her because Ashe autoed you, so that's how we got vision. You return fire with this gorgeous headshot, which unfortunately gets saved by a super clutch Tom eat. Thresh flays. Caitlyn backs up. We use our ignite, and then here you got the fleet, and you were trying to go for the lantern is what it was. Instead, you know, I mean, obviously hindsight's 2020. I try not to get too into the nitty-gritty with these fights, but the concept was definitely to juggle aggro, just to, you know, in this situation, just to let Thresh work his auto attacks. You know, maybe with a little bit more patience, ignite would have gone on Ashe instead of Tom. You know, we could have just stayed back is what I'm trying to say. All right, so Thresh gets 1 auto, and this is the unlucky part. It's just a matter of getting kited by champions that have a little more range than you, and then Kindred shows up. So that kind of sucked. The takeaways are what happened at the beginning. Thresh starting that pressure cooker by getting into range with your autos and your flay when the target lets you. Caitlyn with buffering auto attacks. What's it called? Juggling aggro was the big one for Caitlyn. And then, of course, the ward. So that's, you know, stabilizing and then playing it from there is always a very healthy way of playing the fight. On the topic of calling out your intentions to hook or setting triggers, there was one here at 650, so this is quite fast forwarded. Again, I'm not going to play the comms over it, but just know that there wasn't any prep for this hook. It was good. We got into Fog of War. We looked for the hook. It landed, which is great. The Tom Finch got the eat off, but set the trigger. You know, what were you looking for? What made you want to do the hook? You know, tell your teammate that you want that hook. Again, if you don't really have time, if you see an opportunity that just came out of nowhere, just say go, or Ashe, you know, just like really get it into play that you're the one that's being aggressive, that you're going for the fight or the trade. There's another funny one that happened at 727 where again expectations were not set or triggers were not set for the hook. And then expectations weren't set for either the lantern or the net, and you'll see what I mean here. Here Thresh goes up, looks for the hook. It misses. I don't care. It was a good attempt. If I was Ashe, I probably would have juked down into it. You know, it was a fine hook. Nothing wrong with that. But then here, you know, Cleaner steps up, autos. Now Thresh is confused. You know, Cleaner's plan was to net. Keiro, I don't think, had a plan after the hook missed. Actually, he did. I'll try for hook and then back up. If I miss, I'll back up. You know, setting expectations can sound something like this. I'm going to fish for hooks, but if I don't hit them, let's just disengage. You know, setting expectations. So here, in a panic, Keiro throws down the lantern where Caitlyn would have been. And then Kate ends up getting the good net off. The auto goes back for the lantern. Notice that Keiro is moving forward as Caitlyn's trying to take the lantern. So, boy, we'll just kind of take a look at this one in slower motion, or just I got one times this one. Right. This is why it's so important that we get on the same page with our teammates and that we really, really try to set expectations, assign triggers to your cooldowns. Each one of them, you should be actively talking about them. All right, I think we covered enough in this lane. Let's go ahead and head over to the next game. Game 2. I'm not gonna go quite as hard on these ones. I have a communications example and another skirmish that I would like to look at. You know, but that's it. Okay, so the example starts at 2 minutes, so we'll go ahead and go to 1:55. In this game, we have the Ashe. We're just getting to lane, it looks like, for this example. We have the Ashe, and it's Ashe Lulu versus Thresh and Jhin. We just got in lane. We barely managed to get the 3 melee creeps worth of XP. And let's take a look. My issues with this one were that we were clearly fighting for the... What was it? Let me take a look. For the level 2. My notes were a little funny there. We're clearly fighting for the level 2, but if you listen to the example, neither player is calling for it. And also, we're going to look and see that similar to the Thresh example in the first game, Lulu does not start that process until much later, by not pushing with the auto attacks, by not getting the E into play, the help picks. So these are the things I want you to look out for while we look at this level 2 fight, or level 2 fight for level 2. Okay, I'll go ahead and push play, double click Lulu.
Let me...
Remember that?
Yeah, he definitely took orange first.
Remember that Gragas's flash engage is under 3
It's on. Do you want to go, Jhin?
Yeah.
I have early push here in top lane.
That's his heal.
starting my boot.
Good job.
Okay. Credit where credit was due. I really liked that call out. Do you want to go on Jhin? Still, a little passive for my taste. The communication was good, but I want to hear like Jhin, Jhin, Jhin. You know, I mean, like, this is a critical situation. This is what I would consider to be much more than a trade. Get those assertive comms into play. Let's go ahead and look at this fight from the beginning to kind of get a better idea of how we could have played it a little differently. So we're running to lane, there's the volley. Right here, Lulu should be pushing in, auto-attacking these caster creeps. Looks like Thresh started Flay. Of course, you can click on Thresh in game and find that out as well. Ashe should probably be auto-attacking right now. You guys are pathing a little funny. Just go to the wave and auto-attack it, is what I'm trying to say. Again, support level 1 to level 2 values or goals are to bait wards, to try to distract the enemy away from the ADC onto yourself, because you've got the potions, you've got the potential biscuits, etc. Much more important that they trade onto you. Again, getting that spell into play, getting your E into play early could be on anything, preferably the enemy champions, could also be on Ashe. right? And right now, you should be auto-attacking this wave. Look how Thresh is going in to control the vision. You could ward here and push him out of it by auto-attacking. You could step up into it and just say, like, I'm all-inning. I'm fighting for this bush. That's fine, too. Maybe you guys could attack Jhin. You could even push up this way, which is a little more rare, but you could try to 2v1 Jhin from here, putting Thresh in a really uncomfortable spot. Right now, if you notice this triangle, Jhin and Thresh have a lot of pressure on Ashe, but if Lulu were to relocate up to here, kind of like where this rock is maybe, or this patch of grass, you guys would have a really good pressure on Jhin. And in order for Thresh to come in, Ashe could kite, you know, and it upward through the minions, and that's always really good. So level 1, again, I want those specific support objectives really emphasized, really for our next scrim, really want you to seize these level 1 objectives for support. I think that let's go ahead and hit play. Again, auto-attacking the wave is really important here. You guys are clearly fighting for level 2. Little timid, we walked up and didn't really return fire. Don't forget that, just like how I talked about Ashe buffering auto attacks, Keiro as Lulu, you could be buffering these autos as well from 50 plus your max range. Again, here we're fighting for level 2, but why neither of you didn't call it? Nobody's pushing. Or I should say, Lulu isn't pushing. Okay, now it starts. The sense of urgency has come alive. Thresh has started to auto attack, and now it's a scramble. Ashe has to pause for a second because Lulu didn't go for the lower HP one. So there was that. Big alarm bells should have started ringing when Thresh started walking in, and a call needs to be made. Give it or fight, right? Fight or flight. That's it. When an enemy champion enters your range like that, it's just kind of like I said earlier, where when two champions enter each other's ranges, one of them messed up. One of them wanted to be aggressive, one of them was supposed to want to play passively, or if both of them wanted to be aggressive and all in, somebody misjudged, right? Somebody made a mistake somewhere. So the best way to deal with that is, again, just to make a call, make sure that you and your AD are on the same page. Fight or flight. Okay. So here's where that really good call was made to go on Jhin. Hook is down, so we know that we can go pretty darn all in here. Ignite was used, so the call to go on Jhin was really good. Lulu, here I can see a situation where you really need to orb walk forward to juggle aggro. Right now, Ashe has 100% of the aggro because she just got hooked. Jhin is auto-attacking her and focusing her. This is where Lulu needs to turn into a ravenous animal, start auto-attacking Jhin, orb walking on top of his character model, just beating the snot out of him until he flashes at least, right? Let's kind of take a look at this here. Here we get an auto-attack off, and we're actually moving backwards. You're not allowed to move backwards here. You might be allowed to stand your ground if we were really nervous about not having enough damage. I think you guys are fine. It's level 2 versus level 2. Your casters are helping. The call was to go on Jhin, but preferably orb walk forward until they turn their attention to you, until they stop focusing Ashe. And don't forget, Lulu's attack speed is really low. Look how long it takes you before you're allowed to auto attack again, right? So there's plenty of time to orb walk forward in this situation. I thought Ashe's positioning here is really good. The way that she's cutting in a straight line this way, I think makes a lot of sense now that hook is down. Here's the auto attack. Jhin autos. Ashe, again, with that nice orb walking. A little autopilot, I feel like, backing up. Try to be real conscious about how you're orb walking. Nevertheless, I can understand the desire to disengage after that. Here, I think we realize that we have the advantage. Ashe ends up changing targets. I'm pretty sure that provokes Jin's heal when Lulu stepped up. And then you guys change targets here. So anyway, sorry, I hit the back button. I wanted to play it out at level 1 a little more. Or 1x speed. Let's go ahead and look at Lulu orb walking here. So there's auto. Took a little while to decide to auto, but again, you were a little nervous of them focusing you with the ignite. There's your ignite, there's your auto. Need to see that orb walking. In this case, we ended up attacking Thresh. So again, right from the beginning, or I should say right from when we saw the hook, it's time to orb walk forward, orb walk on top of Jhin. I hope that makes sense. At 355, we have the last example that I'd like to go through and it really is an example of a couple tendencies that you guys have. One of the tendencies is that Ashe or Keiro, or sorry, Cleaner, holy cow, Cleaner tends to play a lot of high risk positionings at times that aren't really necessary. And perhaps when you play in these high risk situations, like underneath the enemy tower or exposing yourself to ganks or things like that, you can still play them, but maybe just bring a little bit more intensity to your positioning. Be a little bit more careful, knowing, you know, that the tower might hit you or that the enemy might flay or hook you or whatever the case may be. Play these situations aggressively, like you are, but have the intensity about it to be very sensitive to the enemy's positioning and the tower, etc. Let's go ahead and take a look at what this looks like. We're getting in the tower here. Okay, here we go up. We auto attack the tower, and then I think you volley. Hey, you volley. Oh, it's the minions. The minions tied you up a little bit, and this tower shot ends up hitting you. Here, this is well within your scope of reactions, Keiro, to use shield, and you could have also used your W to give Ashe the movement speed as soon as she shot the volley. You know, you could prep these. So we're not talking about your reactions to the tower shot here. We're talking about your reactions to seeing Ashe volley, seeing the tower target her. The shot is coming out as she's backing up. You can do this. You can put the shield on her. I know you can. So again, this is for both of you, be sensitive to the situation, right? Don't just be in like a neutral, everyday trading kind of a mindset when you're in this aggressive positioning. Ashe, you could have volleyed from over here to be more on that curve of the tower radius. Lulu could have, again, been a little bit more sensitive to what's going on under the tower, right? Lulu has the option of using E on this melee and glitter lancing this Jhin. Like, come on, be a little bit more sensitive and intense about this tight situation. Another thing that we talked about with communications is, have you guys established what you'll do when Gragas comes bot? Are you guys going to try to 2v3, which is very possible with Jhin being this low? Something like, if Gragas shows up, kite Gragas, but look to all in Jhin, right? He doesn't have heal. Stuff like that, you know, this is where comms can come into play. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on. The tower shot hit, we're auto attacking the tower. We're clearly going for plate. We use a pretty vital Q cooldown here. Thresh is stepping up. Again, not very much sensitivity to the situation. We're harassing them under tower. We are in the most dangerous spot we could be, short of being behind their tower, right? So when Thresh starts stepping up, what I would have liked to see is maybe after one of your auto attacks to this tower, ADC orb walks over here to that curve that we're talking about and starts buffering auto attacks on Thresh right here. You know, once Thresh has gotten this close, he's in play range. You know, alarm bells should have gone off when you were at, I would say, like, for me, my alarm bells start going off when a target is 200 range outside my max. So if Thresh is 800 range for me, or any other champion is 800 range and I'm Ashe, I'm already thinking about getting into position and starting to auto attack him. When do I start buffering my auto attacks? At 50 range out. So at 800, alarm bells start going off, and then at 650, I start buffering auto attacks. Thresh is able to walk up to you and flay you without alarm bells, without the auto attacking, etc., the buffering. So this is an area for improvement for sure. Let's take a look at Keiro. Again, Thresh was able to walk up, flay, and now he's auto attacking Ashe. And just now we cast our E. Guardian propped. Here comes the hook. The hook doesn't hit, but I can see the terror. It ended up hitting the minion, just kind of like the time where we played Thresh. So Ashe just flashes. Now, if Keiro was communicating his cooldowns properly, I don't necessarily think Ashe might have flashed here. As soon as Thresh flayed, you could have said, I've got Poly, or I'm Poly Jhin, you know? if as soon as Thresh started walking up before the flay, you cast your movement speed on Ashe, he would have never been able to get in range, right? We can see two sides of these issues. For Ashe, it's the sensitivity and the sense of urgency for the positioning relative to the high-risk positioning. And then for the support, it's about communicating your cooldowns. It's about saying what you want to do, about getting into play both practically, like again, shielding that tower shot, practically using your spells, but also explaining what you intend to do should something come up. You know, if Gragas ends up ganking us, I'm going to poly him right away. If Jhin tries to auto attack you here, I'm going to poly, right? Like these are things that need to get put into play. We actually don't end up using our poly here. We back off. And here, I'm going to give some credit to Cleaner. I'm not actually going to play the voice clip, but he's like, "Hey, do you have shield? Like, Lulu, do you have shield? Lulu, you need to tell Cleaner that your CDs are back up, that your shield is up, that you're looking to kill Jhin." Here comes the Jhin flash. Luckily, the hands were fast enough. The shield got into play just in time, and boom, first blood. Okay? This was way more of a scramble than it needed to be. I'm gonna back away because that noise is very irritating to my ears. It was way more of a scramble than it needed to be. Count down those cooldowns. Even right here after getting first blood, you say glitter in 4, 3, my E is gonna be up in 3. You know, okay. Then maybe calling out some other stuff like poly in 8, I don't have ignite. Like this is how you vocalize. Poly in 8, I don't have ignite. My E just came up. I have E. Right? Get those into play. Talk about them. Get them into play. Interrupt the communications that are going on elsewhere on the map. This is a critical moment. Speaking of critical moments, as soon as we first blooded Jhin, we need to decide what's going to happen next. Right? Jin's dead, so somebody needed to say crash the wave. And if we're trying to crash the wave here, where's Lulu's auto attacks? Where's the glitter lance on all the minions? What's up? Where is it at? You guys push together. You guys push together. Anytime the AD carry is hard shoving, the support is hard shoving. Anytime the support wants to let the wave come back out, the AD carry only last hits. Right? Like say you're playing Thresh or Leona and you want more active play, you don't want to shove them under tower. You know, you have to vocalize it. Okay, we're letting it slow push, or we're slow pushing. Like only last hit, right? You guys need. It's not a want. I am telling you, you guys need to get on the same page with this kind of thing. Here, the last thing that we'll mention is, again, just this positioning. It's a high-risk positioning. We can actually see Gragas coming here, but if we were to just do blue vision only, we don't know he's here. But you're as close to the edge as possible. It takes away any opportunity for Lulu to body block for you. It takes away the ability to stall to get Lulu's polymorph back up, right? And it also takes away the ability to see Gragas coming. If he comes from right here from Fog, you're going to get barreled right away and not have any time to react. If you're out here, you still have access to attacking all these creeps. You know, as a matter of fact, Lulu should be on the caster duty and you should be on this cannon. You can actually be in this bush hitting this cannon while Lulu is attacking these. And yes, you'd have to step up to last hit, but again, big difference over here. And that's what I mean about, you said in comms, I recognize this because I watched the VOD with the comms. You said, I really don't want to be here right now. I need to get this under tower. Be sensitive to your positioning. You know it's risky. I already know you do. Be sensitive to it. Be intense about it. Visualize the worst case scenario happening and think about what the best place, you know, where the best place for you to stand is. You know, surely you also felt that Lulu should be auto-attacking this wave. Like, get that into play. Talk about it. We can go ahead and look at what happens here. Lulu stepped up to poke. Now she's auto-attacking the cannon, which is good. but here comes Gragas. Oh, and that barrel just barely hit you. At this point, there's no hope for Ashe. Ashe is going for the last hit, which is actually kind of funny that Lulu got it. Lulu tried to body block, now Lulu's in full retreat. Lulu ends up living. Okay, so sorry, this was all rather long-winded, but I really encourage you guys to take the time to review the different plays that happened a few times over. I'm sure I missed a lot. The focus of this video was really just the two-man interactions, but I think you guys can get a lot of value from this if you dissect it and take it slow. And talk to each other, play together, play outside of game when schedules allow, play outside of practice when schedules allow. Alrighty, thank you guys. We'll see you at the next scrim.